This trap feels so illegal to know that if it happened in the real world, I could have been arrested. These are kinds of traps and openings that always put me in trouble with some chess platforms. FBI, open up! Watch. Okay, so not so many people know about this. The idea is to play knight e5 if white plays pawn to d5. If they don't, I'll try to transpose the game to the Budapest. Yep, so that's a common move. If I want to transpose the game to the Chigorin, I can just go pawn to d5 and figure it out later on. Pawn to e5 on the next move, something like that. So what I'm going to do is to develop the king's knight. Now I'm showing you how to play this. After knight f6, if white plays d5, just retreat your knight back. Yep, so now this will most likely transpose to the Budapest gambit or the Budapest defense, because I intend to go pawn to e5. So you always run into this setup from, at least from time to time. Yeah, so if pawn to d5, just go knight back to b8, because you intend to develop that queen's knight officially to the d7 square after playing pawn to d6. That's how the theory goes. You play pawn to g6, bishop g7, castle short. Anywho, my opponent played pawn to c4, time to surprise them with pawn to e5. Amazing. So I remember looking at this some time back. I think instead of playing pawn to e4, you have an option to go knight e7. Yep. So instead of playing this move e4, which works obviously, I propose you play. Oh, wait a second. Maybe there's something I can do here. I'm now thinking of a beautiful trap that involves a bishop sacrifice on h2, you guys. I hope you're going to love it. So I'll just play pawn to e4, and if d takes c6, that's when things will happen. I propose white is going to take on d7 later on, and I'll be happy to see that. So let's do this. Yes, now let's take. Bishop takes. Please take with the d pawn, e pawn, yep. And now look how this works, you guys. Bishop d6, preventing bishop f4. Now we are yet to see something amazing, right? So let's do this. I'm going to play a prophylactic move that I don't expect my opponent to see. Let me go h6, because I'll play pawn to h5 next. King f8. And then this move. I'll be glad to see bishop g5. So this is called psychology chess, you guys. I'm playing with human psychology, obviously. Yep, this is what I talked about earlier. Just like the reversed, trap in the Caro-Kann that I always play when I'm hungry or hungry. If king takes, I have knight g4 check and I'll win that. Or not even knight g4. If king takes, knight g4, pawn takes, that. Yep, so this is going to end very quickly than I expected. So I have pawn takes that will come with check before winning the dark square bishop. Don't try this at home. Somebody got upset with this line in the comment section. Why do I always say don't try this at home? Okay, so this is check. I removed that. I expect white to go back to g1, like playing king g1, allowing me to take their dark square bishop with queen takes g5. This is an exact mirror of the Caro-Kann trap that I always play, against Caro-Kann players. So let's see what my opponent is going to do. Okay, my opponent took a bit of time before playing. There was nothing. If white played king g1, I was just going to take the bishop and probably go in with my queen like that. It was just going to be a matter of time before checkmating them. So now it is time for me to take the bishop. Now I want you to see how I'm going to checkmate this guy. I knew they were going to play rook h1 because this is what people do all the time. So I want to play something crazy, you guys, that I don't want you to forget, either in this life or in the next to come. So I give you 5 seconds to find the best move for black in this position. I guess that's it. The move is rook h3 check. This is a brilliant move, you guys. Once you do this, your opponent won't believe their eyes. The idea is, if rook takes, I'm going to checkmate, maybe on g2 with my queen. How cool is that? And I have bishop g4 check if my opponent allows. Why? Nah, this is game over, guys. So this is the importance of solving chess puzzles and knowing your openings very well, you guys. White is struggling and I'm ready to checkmate them. If pawn takes, I'll just take back with my pawn. If rook takes, I'll do the same. This is how you play reverse psychology in chess, you guys. Some of these moves are dubious, agreeable, so dubious. But you know what? They still work. Yep, they are dubious, but they work. Okay, so now the best move here is, wait a second. If I give a check, my opponent will have time to run their king like that. So I have this. This is check. And wait a second. Can I just bring in my rook? Yep, this is check. There's no defense. Yep, my opponent just resigned. Amazing stuff. Let me just quickly go through the opening moves and then I'll show you where I stole this idea from. This trap feels so illegal to know that if it happened in the real world, I could have been arrested. These are kinds of traps and openings that always put me in trouble with some chess platforms. FBI, open up! Anywho, my opponent started with d4. At this point, I had no idea what I was going to play against this guy. And that's me being honest. So I decided to start with knight c6, which is the beginner's defense. I was hoping to see the move d5 so that I could go knight e5. This is what I prepared. And after something like pawn to e4, I was ready to go e6 and then sacrifice my knight on the next move, because when I reach this position, I know that it's either black wins or draw. In this case, I knew I was easily going to draw this game if it went like this. So the secret is to start giving queen checks on these highlighted squares, you guys. Never forget about this. This is the whole secret. Whether you are playing against Hikaru, Magnus, or whatever, just remember this. Just remember to start giving perpetual checks on these highlighted squares with your queen. But to my surprise, my opponent played knight f3, and that's why I kinda transposed the game back to the Mexico defense with knight f6. Not really the Mexico, others call it the black tango defense. It works against the queen's gambit setup. Now at this point, if white plays pawn to d5, you don't have knight e5, quite alright, due to the presence of that knight on f3. So it is here where you want to play knight b8. This is what I was saying in the live stream or during the game. It looks like a sheer waste of time, but you can check the master's database, you guys. Oops, let me just turn that on. You can check for yourselves. This is the master's database. As you can see, real over-the-board games played by masters and other experts. Anywho, story for another day. So after knight f3, in the game I played knight f6. And after my opponent played c4, I decided to go pawn to e5. And finally they played pawn to d5. I had plenty of options to take. I remember covering this like 2 months ago in my French beginners video, where I proposed to go knight e7, which I wanted to play initially if you heard my commentary during the game. I wanted to play knight e7. This is what I covered. And the line goes as follows. If knight takes, you simply go pawn to c6. Because if white dares to push d6, now we have queen a5 check. Look at this. If knight c3 is played, now you go queen takes e5, and after pawn takes, you go bishop takes. Back to equality. You're just going to cast a short, play pawn to d5 at the right time. Again, after knight e7 and pawn to c6, if white doesn't play d6, allowing you to give them a check and win their knight, the other move you will see them playing is, I guess, knight c3, because pawn to e4 will just run into knight takes in the long run. So knight c3, since you don't have queen a5, you just take, and after cd, guess what? Once again, you go knight takes d5, or rather knight e takes d5, because if white takes your knight, you still have queen a5 check, and they are going to lose one of the knights. So this is what I wanted to play initially when my opponent played pawn to d5 on move number 4. But for some reason, I just decided to go berserk, go crazy with the move e4. That's what I played. And I risked my integrity to entertain your eyeballs. So it was at this point when I started thinking of the reversed Caro-Kann trap that I'm going to show you at the end of this video. So here is how the line goes. If pawn takes knight, you take their knight as well. Of course, they're going to take your d7 pawn because they think they're getting ahead in development, but this only puts you in front of things, helps you to develop your pieces. When you play a gambit, quick development is key. Here, the move I fear the most is gf. It kind of makes sense, but my opponent took back with their e-pawn, and this allowed me to activate my bishop on its potential square. After bishop d3, I could have played pawn to h5, immediately preparing for that same bishop sacrifice, but I thought that was going to be too obvious, which is why I started with h6, creating an impression as if I'm afraid of bishop g5. Then my opponent gave me a check. I could have played bishop e6 to block that, but I gladly played king f8 because I don't listen. And after my opponent castled short, I was like, hallelujah, we are about to witness something special. So I played pawn to h5, inviting them to pin me. Why? Because I don't listen. They played knight c3 and I was like, what, you want to play knight d5? So I played pawn to c6, and finally they played bishop g5 and I was like, that's it. That's all I wanted to see. After king takes, they took, then I gave them a check. The rest is history. Or say if pawn takes and pawn takes, let's say white played king g1, I was still going to take on g5, and here is what most people like doing. Some like playing pawn to f3, forgetting that g3 is a killer move. Before I show you the version of this trap in white, against the Caro-Kann, let me show you another line where this works. After d4, knight c6, and knight f3, instead of playing knight f6 first, you can still go e5. I covered this in another video on this same channel, by the way. Point is, if white plays d5, you go e4. Again, if they take, you take. If they take on d7 with check, you take back with your bishop. Again, if pawn takes, you go knight f6, same stuff. If bishop d3, the top played move, you go bishop d6. If they castle short, this is when you go h5. Now it is clear to see which moves white is going to play. If rook check, you simply go king f8. Your king on f8 is the safest king on earth. Anywho, point is, after bishop g5, the top played move, again, you go bishop takes. Same stuff. And this is where I learned that little puzzle I asked you to solve during the game. If king takes, you go knight g4 check, and after pawn takes, you go hg. This is check. In one of my most recent games, Sam 2400 played king g3, and of course I took back like that. And then they played rook h1. Now you see where my strength came from. And this is why I asked you guys to solve that checkmate puzzle during the live game. When you play this over and over, it'll become part of you that you won't even be needing to think for every move. So the move here is simply rook h3 check. Rook h3 check, and after rook takes or something like that, you have pawn takes. They can't go back to queen takes g2 checkmate, and if they do that, there comes bishop g4 check, and after king g3 or whatever, you just capture the queen. Next, it will be checkmate. And now, the question that begs to be answered is, where did I steal this idea from? Watch. Against the Caro-Kann, you start with e4. Especially if you know that your opponent is a Caro-Kann player and they play c6, just go d4, because they are going to play d5, after which you go knight c3. The top played move is de. after which you take back with your knight. Now bishop f5 is another move that people play nowadays, but the common one that you're going to see is knight f6. This allows you to take, and after pawn takes, you are free to go knight f3. By the way, this is now called the Tartakov variation. I've covered it a lot of times on this channel, or several times. Bishop d6 is the top played move, after which you go bishop d3. Can you see the similarities? Black usually castles short, but you don't. You don't have to. It is in this position where you can play h4 to invite bishop g4 or rook e8 check first. After that happens, where do you put your king? On f1. And after something like bishop g4, here goes the same trap, you guys. Bishop takes. And after king takes, you go knight g5 check. Why? Anywho, after pawn takes, the same thing happens. If black plays king g6, you first take back. And I've run into these several times, you guys. After rook h8, again, just like what I did in the live game, this is where you remember to sacrifice your rook. Doesn't matter which piece they take back with. If pawn takes, you take back like that, you know. If king h7, you have checkmate on g7. If that happens, you have bishop g5 check, and that's it. This now go bishop takes queen, and soon it'll be checkmate. If king takes h6, you can even play what? Bishop f6, because you want to checkmate like that. Rook g8, queen h4, king g6, queen g5, king h7, queen h5, met. And hey, want to take your chess seriously? Simply head over to the comment section down below and find a special link to my courses that you should click. You will be redirected to my Patreon page where you can access all my wonderful courses. By the way, that's how you support this channel. And hey, if you really care about this channel and want to see us grow, click the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to turn on the bell notification icon for all my content. That way you won't miss any of my future uploads. Lastly, to get this free study PGN that I'm using in this video, simply scroll all the way down to the comment section and click the first link that you see, which will redirect you to a page that will ask you to subscribe before getting this PGN for free.